And our top focus on World DNA this morning. Millions of Pakistanis head to the polls in an election marred by rising terror attacks, an economic crisis, allegations of pre-poll rigging and a deeply polarized political environment.
Absolutely, Him. Now, over 90,000 polling stations have established across the country and security has been ramped up across the South Asian nation. The polls will decide the fate of over 5,100 contestants, out of which only 266 will be elected to the National Assembly, which is the lower house of the Pakistani Parliament. Another 12,000 contestants are also in the fray, competing for seats in the provincial assemblies.
Now, the ballots will open at 8 a.m. local time. Voting will continue till 5 p.m. in the evening. Unofficial first results will start flowing in shortly thereafter. And a clear picture, it's likely to emerge early on Friday.
Pakistan's National Assembly consists of 336 seats, out of which 266 are decided through direct voting. 60 seats are reserved for women and 10 for non-Muslims. Now, these seats are allotted to parties according to their strength in the House. The elected members of National Assembly, the vote to select the Prime Minister. The winning contestant needs a simple majority of 169 votes.
Now, the main contests are expected to be between candidates backed by jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, and its main competitor, Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, led by former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif.
Imran Khan has been jailed for 14 years on corruption charges and is hence ineligible to compete. Moreover, his party's election symbol has also been struck off ahead of the polls by the country's election commission. Now, most of the PTI leaders are hence running as independents.
Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, the 35-year-old son of former Premier Benazir Bhutto and co-chair of the Pakistan People's Party, is also in the race. Analysts say there may be no clear winner, but Pakistan's powerful military generals could play a role. Pakistan's military has dominated the nuclear-armed country either directly or indirectly in its 76 years of independence.
Well, Imran Khan believes that the military is behind a crackdown to hound his party out of existence. At the same time, commentators say that Nawaz Sharif is being backed by the generals. The two former prime ministers have switched places since the last election in 2018. At that time, Imran Khan was believed to be backed by the military and Sharif was in jail on corruption charges.
And now for more on this, we have with us our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik. Anas, thank you so much for joining us. Big day today. Now, Anas, less than an hour to go for the polls. Take us through the security measures, of course, that have been put in place in the 4 provincial assemblies headed to the polls today. Of course, this comes after the terror attacks on the eve of the polls.
Well, it's a cold morning here in Lahore. It's 7 degrees on the dial and it's a public holiday in Pakistan as well. Pakistan goes to polls in less than an hour's time, and today what we understand is that 266 direct election seats will be done, whereas the reserve seats would then be allocated later on. With regards to your question on the security measures, I'm standing on the Mall Road of Lahore, and this road straight leads to the constituency of former Premier Nawaz Sharif, who is contesting from the Gawal Mandi area. If you're talking about the security measures, particularly in Lahore or elsewhere in the country as well, there are about 600,000 plus security personnel that have been deployed. I've been out on the road since last night, driving from Islamabad to Lahore. We haven't really seen people not being enthusiastic about these elections. I think 3 weeks ago, if that was the case, then after Nawaz Sharif and PMLN got out onto the campaigning trail, things did change, and they did change for the better. Now the mood is festive in the country. We see banners, placards, we see streamers being put up, and nearer to the election, to the polling stations as well, we've seen electoral camps being put up as well. Pakistan is just waking up. It's roughly 7 a.m. here on the dial, so we would be expecting some more of traffic both on the roads and nearer to the polling stations as well, as and when the polling time begins. That is 8 a.m. Pakistan time, and by the time it ends, that would be 5 p.m. Pakistan time. Him?
Right, Anas, you've outlined the security measures in place there in Pakistan ahead of the polls. Just want to add that Pakistan has also closed borders with Iran and Afghanistan. The Chief Election Commissioner has said that they will ensure foolproof security for the voters. But ahead of the polls, we witnessed terror attacks in Pakistan. Do you think that this will have any bearing on the voter turnout today?
Well, if you go by the trend, the highest number of voter turnout that Pakistan has had was in 1970 elections, and that was about 57.1%. The last two elections, Pakistan has seen a 54% voter turnout and a 52% voter turnout. Historically speaking, in the other general elections that have been held, we've seen about between 35 to 45% of voter turnout, and that is what the average is in the country. What also has to be kept in mind is the fact that about 17 million new voter will be there out and voting for the first time in the country. So that would also make a real difference. If you go by the trend, and as I said, if you go by the trend, then these incidents of terrorism have a significant bearing on the voter turnout, because it just depends on who the people have either decided or whose narrative is resonating with the common people. So I personally don't think that these incidents of terrorism would have a major bearing on the voter turnout. The only thing that can possibly have a major bearing on the voter turnout would be the resonance of the narrative which all of the three political leaders are putting across to the general public, two of them being two major political players, the third right now being in the jail. So it needs to be seen on whose call, if at all, the voters would come out, because 60% of the voters out of the 128 million who get to vote today are those who are youth, essentially aged between the age of 18 and 35.
Right. Now, Anas, of course, you rightly mentioned that what actually matters is what struck a chord with the voters. That being said, what would you say are some of the top concerns of the voters heading for the polls?
Well, economy, inflation and unemployment. Three issues that are key to the country, and that would something that the voters would have to keep in mind before voting. All of the political parties have promised and made tall claims with regards to the economic measures. But if you look at it in practicality, Pakistan would have to go into a new IMF program to sustain its economic conditions. The foreign reserves are not at the optimum. They're seeking rollovers. So in the next year or so, whosoever comes into power, we'd be seeing more and more heightened inflations, which of course would be a matter of concern. But that would probably be just for the first year, when whosoever comes in power. The rest of the years ahead can possibly be a smooth ride ahead. So these three key issues are something that the voters will keep in mind when they are proceeding to vote.
Right, Anas, we'll be closely tracking the Pakistan elections today, but thanks very much for joining us here on WION right now.